Hey guys, tonight we're going to venture deep into the past, further back than any emperor, pyramid, or written word. We're stepping into the mind of a different kind of human, to live a day in a life that has been extinct for over 40,000 years. Imagine, we are in a time before history, a period of immense cold known as the Pleistocene. Before you lies a world of ice sheets a mile high, a world prowled by cave lions and woolly mammoths, a world lit only by the sun, the moon, and the flicker of a captured flame. In that vast and brutal landscape, a mind awakens. It is the mind of a Neanderthal, a relative so close to us that their blood runs faintly through the veins of many of us today. Over hundreds of thousands of years, this species has mastered the frozen continents. It has endured shifts in climate that would shatter our own civilization. It has hunted beasts that we only see in museums, loved its family, and cared for its elders. So what did it truly feel like to be them? Were they the dumb, club-dragging brutes of cartoons? Or were they thoughtful beings with a rich inner life? And what silent tragedy led to their disappearance from the face of the earth? Thanks to incredible advances in genetics and archaeology, tonight we will piece together the fragments of their lost world and attempt to find the answers. Frankly, if you were dropped here in your pajamas, your biggest concern wouldn't be the meaning of life, but the fact that you'd freeze solid in about 20 minutes. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. That small click sends a big signal to the algorithm that long-form, serious educational content still matters. And to me, it's an incredibly meaningful show of support. Thank you so much for helping keep this channel going strong. It always fascinates me to see where you're all tuning in from. Let me know in the comments where you are in the world and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are waking up. There is no alarm clock. No gentle sunrise filtering through a window. There is only a slow, reluctant shift from the blackness of sleep to the deep gray twilight of a cave mouth. The light that reaches you is pale, filtered through a constant overhang of cloud that blankets this part of the world. What will one day, in a distant future you cannot comprehend, be called the Dordogne Valley in France. You are just one small family unit in a vast territory that your kind inhabits, a range stretching from the Atlantic shores of Europe all the way to the mountains of Central Asia. The first thing you feel is the cold. It's a physical presence, a predator that is always stalking the edges of your life. It bites at the skin on your face and snakes its way under the heavy pile of furs that covers you. You can feel the sheer weight of them. Scraped and cured hides of bear and woolly rhino, heavy and stiff. But the only thing between you and the bone-deep chill of the Ice Age. The air you breathe is thick with the smells of your existence, the lingering, greasy scent of wood smoke from last night's fire, the damp mineral tang of the limestone walls, and the close, musky animal smell of your own family sleeping nearby. You listen. To your left, the slow, deep, and steady rhythm of your mate's breathing. Near the cave wall, a series of soft, snuffly sounds from your child, curled into a tight ball for warmth. And from the deeper shadows near the back of the cave comes a wet, wheezing cough. It's the old man, your mother's brother. He is a constant, rasping presence in the background of your life. Slowly, you stretch your limbs, and you can feel the unique power of your own body. Your torso is a barrel, your chest immensely deep, housing lungs built to draw huge drafts of frigid air. Your bones are thicker, your muscles denser than those of the people who will come later. As you place your bare feet on the cave floor, you feel the shocking cold of the stone, but your broad soles give you a solid, unshakable connection to the earth. There is a sense of immense, coiled power in your stocky frame, a physique perfectly engineered to retain heat and endure hardship. Inside your skull, a brain larger than that of modern humans slowly comes online, processing the world not through complex language, but through a deep, instinctual current of awareness. You look around the cavern, your home. Piles of furs mark sleeping areas. A jumble of flint chips and discarded bones lies near one wall. The central fire pit is a circle of ash and charred wood. Archaeologists in that distant future will analyze the very dirt you're standing on, the layered sediments of your floor, to date your occupation here. Yet they will still argue whether this arrangement is deliberate, a designated space for each activity, or if it is simply the haphazard result of life lived day to day. To you, it is simply home. You move towards the cave mouth, your heavy footfalls making soft, padding sounds on the dusty floor. Pushing aside a stiff hide that hangs over the entrance to block the worst of the wind, you step out onto a wide ledge. The change is immediate and overwhelming. The air here isn't just cold, it feels thin and sharp, like a sliver of flint against the inside of your lungs. You take a deep breath, and your body's unique engineering immediately goes to work. Your large, wide nose with its cavernous nostrils is a biological furnace. It draws in the frigid, razor-sharp air and forces it over a vast, warm and humid surface area, instantly raising its temperature before it reaches your delicate lungs. This simple, unconscious act is one of the 1,000 small adaptations that allows you to exist in a world that is actively trying to kill you. It's a pretty neat party trick, though the parties in this epoch are admittedly a bit lacking in dip and conversation. Before you, the world unfolds in a panorama of muted greens, pale ochres, and endless grey. You are living in the Pleistocene, a geological epoch defined by crushing cold. In the far distance, glaciers, like frozen mountain ranges, dominate the horizon. Colossal rivers of ice that have locked up so much of the world's water that sea levels are hundreds of feet lower than they will be in the future. The landscape they have carved is a vast, open-steppe tundra. There are no lush forests here, only hardy, low-lying grasses that crunch underfoot, sparse, wind-blasted shrubs, and the occasional lonely conifer clinging to a sheltered rock face. In the valley below, you see movement. A herd of woolly mammoths, their shaggy brown coats making them look like mobile haystacks, graze placidly, their great curved tusks sweeping through the low vegetation. The silence is the next thing you notice. It's a silence so profound it has weight. In the 21st century, true silence is a luxury. Here, it is the default state of the world. There is no distant hum of traffic, no drone of an airplane. The air is filled only with the sound of the wind whistling over the rock, and perhaps the distant, yipping howl of a cave hyena ending its nightly hunt. The soundscape is emptier, clearer, and far more dangerous. Every snap of a twig, every dislodged stone is a piece of vital information. Your mate and child now join you on the ledge, wrapping their own furs tighter around their shoulders. You look at their faces, the faces of your family. They are not the brutish, ape-like masks of caricature. They are broad and robust, with the same wide nose you possess, and a strong, heavy brow ridge that shields their eyes from the glare of sun on snow. Their features are a testament to your lineage, a map of survival sculpted by 100,000 years of ice. The child, your daughter, has a startling shock of red hair, a genetic trait that pops up in your people now and then. Modern scientists, through the magic of ancient DNA, will discover that this isn't an anomaly, but a common adaptation, allowing for more efficient vitamin D synthesis in the weak, often overcast sunlight of these northern latitudes. You all stand there for a moment, scanning the horizon. This is the daily ritual, checking the weather, the movement of herds, the presence of predators. Your existence is tied to the rhythms of this harsh climate. And you know, in a way that is bone-deep and instinctual, that the climate is not a still, reliable thing. The stories of the old ones, passed down through grunts and gestures, speak of times when the cold returned with shocking speed, or when the rains failed for a generation. You are living through what future scientists will call Dansgaard-Oeschger events, violent, rapid climate swings that could change the world in a matter of decades. Paleoclimatologists will one day drill deep into the ice of Greenland and Antarctica, pulling up cores that contain a perfect frozen record of these ancient temperatures, revealing the terrifying instability of the world you call home. For them, it's a graph on a screen. For you, it is the constant unspoken fear of a world that can and will change without warning. You turn from the vast, cold emptiness of the outside world and retreat into the comparative comfort of the cave. The immediate goal, the single most important task of every morning, is to attend to the hearth. In the center of the main cavern is a shallow, ash-filled pit circled by fire-blackened stones. This is the heart of your family, the anchor of your existence. At numerous sites across your vast range, from Israel to Spain, archaeologists of the future will find these exact kinds of hearths, layered with charcoal and burnt bone fragments. Through microscopic analysis, they'll prove what you already know, that these fires were not temporary, but were tended and used in the same spot for generations. The problem is, this fire is a treasure you possess, but not one you can create. You are a fire taker, not a fire maker. The central terrifying question that still vexes scientists is whether your kind ever mastered the trick of producing flame on demand, perhaps by striking pyrite against flint. The evidence remains maddeningly inconclusive. For you, the reality is simple. You live in a state of constant, low-level anxiety about the fire going out. This particular flame was captured months ago during a summer thunderstorm that set a dead tree ablaze. You and your kin journeyed for a day to retrieve a burning branch, transferring the precious embers into a hollowed-out bracket fungus, which you then carried with painstaking care back to this cave. To lose this flame would be catastrophic. Your mate is already kneeling by the pit. Last night, she carefully buried the largest, most vibrant coals under a thick blanket of ash to starve them of oxygen and keep them alive. Now she gently excavates them with a stick. They are glowing a faint, sullen cherry red, dangerously close to death. The tension in the cave is suddenly thick enough to taste. Your daughter, knowing her duty without being told, scurries in with handfuls of the driest moss and lichen she can find, along with a bundle of twigs no thicker than her fingers. Your mate arranges the tinder around the dying embers with the delicate precision of a surgeon. Then she leans in close and begins to blow, not in a great gust, but in a long, slow, controlled stream of air. It's a technique passed down through countless generations. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happens. The embers seem to dim. She blows again, her cheeks hollowed with the effort. A tiny wisp of smoke appears, smelling sharp and resinous. She keeps blowing, her rhythm steady as a heartbeat. Then a single tiny yellow tongue of flame flickers into existence, wavers, and catches hold of the moss. A collective, unspoken sigh of relief passes through the family. You all watch as she carefully adds larger twigs, then bigger sticks, skillfully building the fire back into a stable, crackling presence. With the crisis averted, the benefits of your labor fill the cave. A wave of warmth begins to push back the oppressive cold. The dancing light throws your exaggerated shadows against the limestone walls, chasing away the deepest gloom where cave bears or hyenas might otherwise seek shelter. This fire is your guardian. It's also your primary tool. Later, you will use its heat to harden the tip of a wooden spear. Near the edge of the hearth, a small clay pot is half buried in the warm earth, slowly cooking strips of birch bark. This isn't for food. You are manufacturing one of the world's first synthetic materials, birch bark tar, a sticky, black, waterproof adhesive you'll use to glue stone points to your spears. It's a surprisingly complex process, requiring you to heat the bark in an oxygen-deprived environment to very specific temperatures. It's basic chemistry, discovered through millennia of trial and error. The fire is not just a comfort. It is the engine of your technology and your survival. As the warmth of the revived fire begins to fill the cavern, the wheezing cough from the back of the cave grows more insistent. You turn your attention to the old man, your uncle, as he slowly pushes himself into a sitting position. He is perhaps 38 years old, a respectable, even venerable age, in a world where the average life expectancy is a mere 30 years. Only 1 in 5 of your people will ever see their 40th year, and looking at him, it's a miracle he's made it this far. His body is a living archive of pain, a roadmap of a life lived on the ragged edge of survival. His left arm is withered and useless, the result of a devastating injury in his youth that never healed correctly. A deep, depressed scar runs across his forehead, where a rockfall or a rival's club once laid his skull open. His teeth, the ones he has left, are worn down almost to the gums, a common affliction for your people who often use their mouths as a third hand for gripping hides and materials. He winces, bringing a hand to his jaw, and you know the abscess that has been tormenting him for weeks is flaring up again. In a world governed by the cold calculus of survival of the fittest, this man should be long dead. He cannot hunt, he can barely gather, and he is a slow-moving liability in the face of a predator. And yet, here he is. His continued existence is perhaps the most powerful testament against the cartoon image of your people as unfeeling brutes. He is proof of compassion. We know this isn't an isolated case. A significant number of Neanderthal fossils unearthed by archaeologists show evidence of individuals surviving for years with debilitating injuries and illnesses. Their bones tell a clear story. They were looked after, fed, and protected by their family group. Your mate notices his discomfort. She puts down the scraper she was working with and goes to a small pouch made of rabbit skin. She pulls out a few strips of dried bark from a poplar tree, a natural source of salicylic acid, the active compound in modern aspirin, and puts them in a small stone bowl with a little water to soften. Then she retrieves something else, a piece of greenish, fuzzy plant matter she found growing on a rotting log. It's penicillium, the very fungus from which humans, in a distant future, will derive the antibiotic that revolutionizes their world. She hands the fungi to the old man, and he begins to chew it slowly, pressing the pulp against his swollen gum to ease the pain and infection. It's a rudimentary, but surprisingly effective, form of medicine. The most famous example of this long-term care is a fossil skeleton found in the Shanidar cave of modern-day Iraq. This individual, dubbed Shanidar I, lived to be almost 50 years old. He had survived a crushing blow to the side of his head that likely blinded his left eye. His right arm was withered and had been amputated above the elbow, and he walked with a painful limp from a broken foot. He was, by any measure, severely disabled. Yet he lived for decades after his injuries, a walking testament to the care and value his people placed on him. As the old man in your cave chews his moldy medicine, he sometimes takes a sharpened sliver of bone and carefully probes the gaps between his aching teeth, trying to dislodge some irritating fiber. This, too, is a behavior etched into the fossil record, with archaeologists finding characteristic grooves on Neanderthal teeth made by habitual toothpick use. It is here that anthropologists still debate the very nature of this compassion. Was it born of pure, selfless empathy, a love for a family member that transcends their utility? Or was it a more pragmatic arrangement? Perhaps the old man, unable to hunt, is valued for a different reason. His mind. He is a library of knowledge. He knows the stories of the ancestors, the best places to find flint, the subtle signs that predict a coming blizzard. This is the central question. Anthropologists debate whether this care was born of pure emotional empathy as we know it, or a more pragmatic, understanding that even a disabled elder held valuable knowledge crucial for the group's survival. For you, the distinction is meaningless. He is your uncle. He is in pain. And so you help him. The decision is made. The mammoth herd in the valley is the target. Now comes the planning, and for this the hunters gather around the hearth. This is not a conversation you would recognize. There are no flowing sentences, no complex grammar, no witty banter. The air is not filled with words. Instead, you are about to witness a form of communication that is both alien and deeply, fundamentally human. It is a rich tapestry woven from a limited palette of sounds, a complex library of gestures, and a deep, intuitive understanding of body language. Your species is able to create detailed hunting plans and convey nuanced emotions through this system, a fact that would shock the cartoonists of the future. As the lead hunter, you begin. You make a low, guttural, rumbling sound deep in your chest, a sound that everyone here associates with the great, shaggy beasts. Then you use your hand to make a sweeping gesture, indicating the wide expanse of the river valley. You follow this with a sharp, downward stabbing motion, the universally understood sign for the spear. Your fellow hunter responds with a question. He points to himself, then to a rocky outcrop he pantomimes with his hands, and then cocks his head. He is asking, "Do I hide behind the rocks?" You give a series of slow, deliberate nods. Agreement. Another hunter expresses concern. He makes the sign for mammoth, but then adds the sign for a calf by holding his hand low to the ground, and then beats his chest, mimicking a furious, protective mother. You acknowledge his concern with a grunt and a raised hand, a sign for wait. This is how information is shared. Frustration is a sharp, forceful exhalation of breath through your wide nose. Joy at a successful hunt is a series of loud, whooping calls. Grief is a low, quiet moaning. Your daughter, sitting near the fire, watches every exchange, her mind absorbing the complex dictionary of sounds and movements. This is her school. The entire system is far more than just grunting. It is a genuine, information-rich form of communication. The mainstream scientific view has shifted dramatically on this, with most researchers now believing that Neanderthals possessed a complex method of vocal communication, even if it wasn't a fully modern language. The fascinating thing is, the physical hardware for speech seems to have been in place. Deep inside your throat, you possess a small, U-shaped bone called a hyoid. It is not connected to any other bone, but anchors the tongue and larynx, and its shape is critical for articulating speech. A stunning discovery in Kabara Cave in Israel unearthed a Neanderthal hyoid bone that is, for all intents and purposes, completely identical to your own. The physical potential was there. Furthermore, your genetic code contains the FOXP2 gene, which in modern humans is absolutely critical for the ability to learn and produce language. So why aren't you discussing philosophy? The limitation may have been in the brain's software. The neural pathways connecting the different language centers of your brain might have been less developed, preventing the leap to the complex syntax and vast vocabulary of a true language. It's like having a world-class sports car, but no one has quite figured out how to build a proper highway system for it to drive on. Adding to the mystery, a study of the tiny bones in the Neanderthal ear, the ossicles, suggests your hearing was optimized for a different frequency range than that of modern humans. This could mean your own vocalizations were different, perhaps less focused on the crisp consonant sounds that form the backbone of our own speech. This leads to one of the most exciting areas of research. Scientists are split on the complexity of Neanderthal language. Some argue they had a proto-language with a limited vocabulary and simple grammar, while others propose a more musical, tonal system of communication that left no archaeological trace. Perhaps your communication was more like singing, conveying meaning through pitch and tone rather than through distinct words. We may never know for sure, but as the plan for the mammoth hunt solidifies through a final series of gestures and sounds, one thing is clear. Everyone in this cave knows exactly what they need to do. With the plan for the hunt set, your attention turns to the tools of the trade. You don't simply grab a spear from a pile. Every weapon, every scraper, every point must be inspected and, if necessary, remade. This is the first task of the morning for you and the other hunters: tool maintenance. You leave the cave and travel a short distance along the ridge to a place you know well: a quarry, a specific outcrop of rock where the highest quality flint, grey and glossy, can be found. You select a large, fist-sized nodule of flint and settle down on a rocky ledge. What you are about to do is not just crude bashing of rocks. It is a highly sophisticated, multi-step process that future archaeologists will name the Mousterian industry. And the specific method you employ is called the Levallois technique. It is a display of cognitive abilities, foresight, abstract thinking, and fine motor control that are entirely modern. You are not just chipping away at a stone, you are performing a kind of Stone Age Zen, visualizing the perfect tool that is currently trapped inside the raw material. First, you begin to prepare what is called a tortoise core. Using a harder hammerstone, you meticulously chip away at the edges of the flint nodule, shaping its perimeter. Then you flip it over and begin flaking the top surface, creating a distinctive domed shape, like the shell of a tortoise. Every single strike is precise, calculated to shape the mass and control the shock waves of the next impact. Next, you prepare the striking platform, a small, flat surface at one end of the core. This is the most crucial step. The angle and smoothness of this platform will determine everything. Your son, who is now almost a man, sits beside you, watching your every move. He is clumsy, his own attempts often resulting in shattered, useless flakes. You pause, guide his hand with your own, adjusting the angle of his strike with a grunt and a touch. This is his classroom, and the lesson is survival. He must learn this, just as you learned from your own father. The continuity of your people depends on this silent transfer of knowledge. Now, with the core perfectly prepared, you are ready for the final act. You switch from your heavy hammerstone to a softer one, perhaps made of antler or bone. You take a breath, aim for the prepared platform, and deliver a single, sharp, perfectly controlled blow. The resulting shockwave travels through the core exactly as you intended, shearing off a large symmetrical flake. It is thin, sharp as a razor on its edges, and has a predetermined shape. It is a perfect Mousterian point, ready to be hafted onto a spear. The beauty of the technique is its efficiency. From the remaining core, you can now strike off several more smaller, useful flakes. It's the Stone Age equivalent of getting a whole pizza, plus a few extra slices out of one ball of dough. This point is just one part of your toolkit. You have heavy-duty scrapers for cleaning animal hides, notched tools called denticulates for shaping wood, and sharp little blades for butchering. It is a versatile, mobile Swiss Army knife for the Pleistocene. In the future, archaeologists will find subtle variations in these toolkits across different regions. This will spark a debate. Archaeologists debate whether the variation in Mousterian toolkits across different sites represents different cultural traditions, much like different ethnicities, or simply different functional needs based on the local environment and available prey. Is the way you make your tools a matter of culture, or pure pragmatism? As you examine the perfect point in your hand, you know only that it is the right tool for the job. And to prove the incredible foresight of your people, scientists will one day find these discarded cores and all the flakes that came off them, painstakingly refitting them back together like a 3D jigsaw puzzle, revealing the exact, deliberate sequence of your actions. While you and the other hunters are outside, chipping away at the hard, cold reality of flint, a different kind of alchemy is taking place back inside the warmth of the cave. Your mate is hard at work on a different, but equally vital, technology. Stretched taut on a crude wooden frame is the hide of a reindeer, taken during a hunt several weeks ago. The Neanderthal skill in processing animal hides for clothing, shelter, and bags was not just proficient. It was a cornerstone of your survival in this frozen world. The first step is a grueling, smelly, and thoroughly unpleasant one. Using one of the broad, flat scrapers you made for her, she is systematically removing every last bit of fat, flesh, and membrane from the inner surface of the skin. It's an upper body workout that would make a modern gym-goer weep. The scraping must be perfect. Any fat left behind will rot, ruining the hide and wasting weeks of effort. Once the skin is scraped clean, the real magic begins. She moves to a stone bowl that contains the brain of the very same reindeer. It's a slightly grim but incredibly effective piece of biochemistry. She mashes the brain tissue into a thick, grayish paste and begins to painstakingly rub it, handful by handful, into the pores of the hide. The fatty acids and natural emulsifiers in the brain tissue work their way into the skin's collagen fibers, lubricating them and preventing them from turning into a stiff, useless board as the hide dries. This is brain tanning, a practice that would be used by human cultures for millennia to come. After the brain paste has been thoroughly worked in, the hide must be mechanically softened. This is where the work becomes even more personal. Your mate takes the edges of the hide in her teeth and begins to chew, her powerful jaw working the leather back and forth, breaking down the stiffest fibers. This is an activity she has been doing her entire life, and it has left its mark. Paleontologists of the future will find Neanderthal skulls and note a characteristic wear pattern on the front incisors, a beveling and rounding that is the unmistakable signature of a lifetime spent chewing hides. It is a quirky but powerful piece of evidence, a story of daily labor written directly onto the skeleton. After chewing, she picks up one of her most prized possessions, a lissoir, a specialized tool made from the rib bone of a deer, worn smooth and glossy from years of use. She rubs the tool back and forth across the hide surface with firm, steady pressure, generating friction and heat, burnishing the leather until it becomes supple and soft. The discovery of these specific bone smoothers in archaeological sites was a breakthrough, as usewear analysis of their polished surfaces provided the first definitive scientific evidence of advanced leatherworking among your people. The final result is not just a rough fur blanket, but a workable material. Using a sharp, pointed bone awl, she begins punching a series of small, neat holes along the edges. Later, she will thread dried animal sinew through these holes to stitch two pieces of hide together, perhaps to fashion a legging or a simple tunic. And this is where a scholarly debate still rages. Experts still question the extent of Neanderthal tailoring. Did they create complex, fitted garments with sleeves and hoods, like the Inuit of the Arctic? Or were their clothes simpler wrap-around coverings? Looking at the care and precision she invests, it's hard to believe it was for anything less than a well-made, life-saving garment, perfectly suited to a body and a world made of cold. The perfect stone point you crafted is a masterpiece of potential energy, but by itself, it's about as useful for hunting a mammoth as a sharp insult. It needs to be joined with wood to become a spear, and this process is its own distinct and vital craft. Your focus now shifts from stone to wood. You head to a sheltered grove a short walk from the cave, a place where the wind is less fierce and young trees can grow straight and true. You aren't looking for any old branch. You need a sapling with a straight grain and no knots. Yew is the prize, legendary for its strength and flexibility, but a straight-growing pine or ash will do the job. After finding a suitable candidate, you take out a heavy, bifacial stone chopper and set to work, the sharp thuds echoing in the cold air as you hack your way through the base of the young tree. Dragging the sapling back to your outdoor workshop on the ledge, you begin the painstaking process of shaping the shaft. You select one of your notched stone tools, a denticulate, and begin to scrape away the bark and shave the wood, turning the rough pole in your hands again and again. You work your way down its entire length, making it smooth, uniform, and aerodynamic. At the business end, you carefully taper the wood to create a perfectly shaped housing for the stone point you made earlier. This isn't a quick job. It takes patience and a deep, intuitive understanding of the material you're working with. Once the shape is right, you take the spear shaft to the hearth. You don't put it in the flames, but hold the tip just above the glowing embers. The intense heat forces the moisture out of the wood's pores, making it significantly harder and more durable. You rotate it constantly, watching the color change, smelling the wood as it cures. This fire hardening technique is an ancient piece of technology, a simple but incredibly effective way to improve the performance of your weapon. The knowledge that early hominins had mastered this craft was confirmed by the stunning discovery of the Schöningen spears in Germany. Though they predate your specific time, these perfectly preserved 300,000-year-old wooden spears proved that your distant ancestors were already expert woodworkers, a tradition that you now continue. Now for the final assembly, the moment where stone, wood, animal, and fire all come together. You take the spear shaft and carefully carve a notch in its hardened tip. From the small pot by the fire, you take a lump of your black, sticky birch bark tar, heating it over a hot stone until it becomes soft and gummy. You smear the adhesive liberally onto the tapered end of the shaft and into the notch. You then press the Mysterian point firmly into place. Before the tar can cool and set, you take long, tough threads of dried animal sinew and begin wrapping them tightly around the joint, binding the stone to the wood. The sinew digs into the warm, sticky tar, and as the tar cools, it will harden like cement, creating an incredibly strong, shock-resistant bond. The final product is a masterpiece of Stone Age engineering. It is heavy, robust, and feels perfectly balanced in your powerful grip. This is not a light, flimsy javelin meant for throwing from a distance. The mainstream scientific consensus is that Neanderthal spears were primarily heavy thrusting weapons, designed for dangerous close-quarters combat. You test the weight of it, practicing a few short, powerful lunges. A lifetime of this motion has made your right arm significantly more muscular and dense-boned than your left, a distinctive asymmetry that paleontologists will one day find in your fossilized skeletons, a silent testament to your hunting strategy. While the thrusting spear is your main tool, some scholars will always debate the possibility that smaller points could have been used for throwing, arguing that while the consensus is that Neanderthals used thrusting spears, some researchers argue that certain smaller points could have been used for a primitive form of throwing or for spears launched with an atlatl-like device, though definitive evidence is lacking. But for the beast you will face tomorrow, you know you will need the brute force and reliability of the weapon you now hold in your hands. With the heavy, masculine energy of weapon-making filling the air, it would be easy to assume that your entire existence revolves around the hunt, the kill, and the consumption of meat. But that's only half the story. A successful mammoth hunt can feed your family for weeks, but such successes are rare and dangerous. The daily, reliable bedrock of your diet comes not from the spear, but from the earth itself. While the mainstream view of your kind has long been that of a top-tier carnivore, the reality is that Neanderthal diets were incredibly varied and included a significant amount of plant matter, birds, and even seafood, all depending on the local environment. And so, as you test the balance of your newly hafted spear, a different kind of food acquisition begins. The old man, your uncle, is the master of this domain. His crippled body prevents him from joining the hunt, but his mind, a vast repository of botanical knowledge, is an equally valuable asset. He calls to your daughter, and together they take a woven reed basket and a sharpened digging stick and head out, not far from the cave, to roam the surrounding scrubland. This is not a casual stroll. The old man is reading the landscape with an expert eye. He can't travel far, but he doesn't need to. He knows the specific type of soil where certain edible tubers grow. He knows that the small, hardy berries you favor grow best on the leeward side of a rocky outcrop, sheltered from the worst of the wind. He leads the child from one small patch of life to another, his gnarled finger pointing, his voice a series of instructive grunts. They dig up starchy roots with the stick, gather a handful of tart, vitamin-rich berries, and find a cluster of earthy mushrooms growing at the base of a stunted pine. This gathered bounty provides crucial micronutrients that are absent in a purely meat-based diet. More importantly, this is a lesson. He teaches her the difference between the sweet berry that fills the stomach and its nearly identical poisonous cousin that brings only cramps and death. He points out the fuzzy leaves of a plant that can be crushed into a paste to soothe insect bites. This is generational knowledge being transferred in its most pure and vital form. The scientific proof for this plant-heavy diet is locked away in the very teeth of your ancestors. At the site of El Cidrón in Spain, scientists would one day analyze the hardened dental plaque on Neanderthal molars. Under a microscope, this plaque revealed trapped starch granules from various roots and grasses, and even chemical compounds from bitter-tasting medicinal plants like yarrow and chamomile, suggesting they weren't just eating plants for calories, but possibly to self-medicate. Your family's mixed diet is typical for this region, but your species is nothing if not adaptable. Far to the south, in what will become modern Spain, some of your cousins live in dense forests where large game like mammoths are absent. There, groups of Neanderthals thrive on a diet that is almost exclusively vegetarian. They are the world's first vegetarians, spending their days foraging for nuts, mushrooms, seeds, and berries. Their entire existence a testament to your ability to adapt to any environment. A quirky piece of evidence for this plant consumption comes from Neanderthal coprolites. That's fossilized poop, to you and me. Analysis of these ancient droppings showed a diet rich in vegetables, but also, surprisingly, a distinct lack of the intestinal parasites that would normally come from eating raw meat, suggesting a very healthy gut microbiome. This dietary flexibility is part of a larger, ongoing scholarly debate about your exact place in the food chain. Paleoanthropologists debate the degree to which Neanderthals were top predators versus opportunistic scavengers. While the evidence for your skilled hunting of massive animals is undeniable, you were also a pragmatist. If you came across a carcass of a bison that had died in a fall, you would absolutely not turn up your nose at a free, easy meal. Every calorie is precious, whether it comes from a hard-won hunt or a lucky find. Your survival depends on this relentless, resourceful opportunism. The sun has climbed higher in the sky. Your spear is ready. Your body is fueled by the forager's bounty, and the time for preparation is nearly over. The hunt is set for the morning. Now, around the fire, comes the final and most crucial stage, the mental rehearsal. There are no written plans, no satellite images, no paper maps. The map exists only in the most powerful computer your people possess, the collective memory of the group, stored within your large and complex brains. You possess an incredible cognitive map of your territory, a three-dimensional model of the landscape etched into your mind through years of experience. You know every gully, every game trail, every cliff face, every treacherous patch of bog. This mental map is your single greatest hunting asset. To ensure the entire group is synchronized, you pick up a burnt stick from the edge of the hearth and begin to draw in the dirt floor of the cave. Your fellow hunters watch, their focus absolute. This is not art. It is a schematic, a blueprint for the coming encounter. You draw a large, rough circle to represent the current location of the mammoth herd. A long, wavy line indicates the river you will use as a natural barrier to funnel the animals. You then draw a series of smaller dots and X's, marking the precise location where each hunter will conceal themselves, waiting for the drive to begin. It's a simple, elegant solution to the problem of communicating a complex spatial plan without a shared language. And it is here that a fascinating debate among cognitive archaeologists still exists. Was drawing a map in the dirt a true symbolic act, an abstract representation of the world? Or was it a more concrete, literal diagram with no deeper meaning? Either way, it works. Your knowledge goes deeper than just geography. You possess a profound understanding of your prey's behavior. You communicate to the group that the large matriarch with the broken tusk is the one to watch. She is old, cunning, and will be the most difficult to panic. You remind them to avoid any lone bulls, whose aggression is dangerously unpredictable. The target, you indicate with a smaller circle, is a younger male on the edge of the herd. Strong, but inexperienced and more easily separated from the group's protection. This is not random violence. This is planned, strategic predation based on a deep, almost scientific knowledge of animal ethology. The sheer foresight on display is staggering. You are planning for a future event, coordinating the actions of multiple individuals, and predicting the behavior of another species, all to achieve a specific goal. This requires a level of abstract thought and a theory of mind, the ability to understand the intentions of others, that is fundamentally modern. It's this cognitive skill that made your people such incredibly effective hunters. Scientific evidence for this strategic thinking is astonishingly clear at sites like La Côte de Saint-Brelade on the island of Jersey. There, archaeologists discovered piles of mammoth and woolly rhino bones at the base of a cliff, showing that Neanderthals had repeatedly and successfully stampeded entire herds over the edge, a complex, terrifyingly dangerous strategy that would have required impeccable timing, coordination, and a masterful use of the landscape. Your success as a hunter is also written in your very chemical signature. Stable isotope analysis of Neanderthal bone collagen shows incredibly high nitrogen levels. In fact, your nitrogen signature is often higher than that of contemporary carnivores like cave hyenas and wolves. This has led some scientists to label you a hyper-carnivore, an apex predator at the absolute top of the food chain. It means you weren't just eating the herbivores. You were so successful that you were likely eating the other meat eaters as well. You didn't just survive on the landscape, you dominated it. And as you erase the dirt map with a sweep of your hand, the plan now locked in everyone's mind, you are ready to prove it. The blackness of the cave has given way to the deep, bruised purple of pre-dawn. It is time. You and the 3 other hunters rise without a sound. There is no need for a final briefing. The plan is set, etched into each of your minds. You each pick up your heavy, thrusting spear, check the hafting one last time, and move towards the cave mouth. The women and children remain behind, their faces tense in the flickering firelight. Their survival for the coming season may depend on what happens in this valley today. You give your mate a final brief nod, and then you are gone, melting into the shadows. The 4 of you move across the frozen landscape like ghosts. Your gait is not like that of a modern human. It is a powerful, ground-hugging stride, your broad feet planting firmly with every step. Your entire sense of balance is different. The semicircular canals of your inner ear, which govern equilibrium, are shaped differently from those of the humans who will replace you, giving you an incredibly stable, powerful posture, perfect for navigating the treacherous, uneven terrain of your world. You are built for this, a creature of the cold and the rock. This is the stalk, a deadly game of patience and perception. Your strategy as a hunter is fundamentally one of ambush. Your heavy spear is devastatingly effective, but only at close range. You must get incredibly, suicidally close to your prey before the attack can begin. This means every step must be silent, every movement controlled. You are not just walking, you are reading a library of tiny signs that are invisible to an untrained eye. You notice a single, dark hair snagged on a thorny bush. Mammoth, a patch of trampled moss. The faint, musky animal scent of the herd carried on the morning breeze, a scent your wide and sensitive nasal passages are perfectly designed to detect. You and your team communicate with a silent, practiced language of hand signals. A raised fist means stop. A flat, sweeping hand means get down. A finger pointing to the ground indicates a fresh track. You move in a spread-out formation, each hunter a set of eyes and ears for the group, a single organism with a shared purpose. The analysis of animal bones found at Neanderthal kill sites proves the effectiveness of your methods. Archaeologists often find the remains of prime-age, healthy adult animals, disproving the old idea that you were mere scavengers who only picked off the sick and the weak. You are hunters of the most dangerous game. As you move through a sparsely wooded gully, you see a small herd of reindeer in the distance, their antlers like bare branches against the grey sky. For a moment, you consider the easier target, but the mammoth offers a far greater reward of meat, fat, and hide. This choice is at the heart of a scholarly debate. Did Neanderthal groups specialize in hunting just one type of large game, like mammoths, or were they generalists who took whatever opportunity presented itself? The evidence varies from site to site. Some groups seem to have been mammoth specialists, while others hunted a wide variety of animals. Your group has the skill and the numbers for the bigger prize, so you let the reindeer pass, your focus remaining absolute. The physical toll of the stalk is immense. Your powerful quadriceps burn with the effort of moving in a low crouch. Your lungs, great bellows built for this argent, thin, cold air, draw in huge draughts with every breath. The spear in your hand feels like an extension of your arm, its weight familiar and comforting. After what feels like an eternity of silent, focused movement, you reach the final ridge overlooking the river valley, the place you marked in the dirt yesterday. You crawl the last few feet on your belly, the frozen earth biting at your skin through your hide coverings. Peering over the top, you feel a jolt of adrenaline. There they are, the herd. A dozen moving, breathing mountains of fur and muscle, their tusks gleaming in the pale morning light. They are closer than you had hoped. The stalk is over. The ambush is about to begin. For a long moment, the world is perfectly still. There is only the sound of the wind, the gentle tearing of grass as the mammoths feed, and the frantic pounding of your own heart. You lock eyes with the hunter across the valley. He sees you. He is ready. You slowly raise your hand, fingers outstretched, and then clench it into a fist. The signal. In an instant, the world explodes into chaos. The four of you rise from your hiding places as one, letting out terrifying, guttural roars that tear through the morning quiet. You charge down the slope, not directly at the herd, but at its flanks, transforming from silent predators into a wall of noise and menace. The mammoths are thrown into instant panic. Their low rumbles turn into high-pitched, trumpeting shrieks of alarm. The ground begins to tremble under their colossal weight as the herd turns to flee. This is the most dangerous moment. Your cooperative hunting strategy is now in full effect. You are not just trying to kill an animal, you are trying to herd a living avalanche of flesh and bone. You and another hunter push from the left, while your two companions push from the right, using your spears not as weapons yet, but as extensions of your bodies, waving them to seem larger and more threatening. Your goal is to peel your chosen target, the young, inexperienced male, away from the safety of the fleeing group. Archaeologists who study these kill sites still argue about the exact methods. Was it a carefully constructed drive lane using natural features like a cliff face and a river, or a more fluid and chaotic ambush relying purely on instinct and reaction? For you, it is a terrifying dance, a blur of motion and coordinated threat. The young bull, confused and terrified, makes a mistake. He veers away from the main herd, trying to break back towards the high ground. It's the opening you needed. Two of you instantly shift your position to cut him off, leaving the rest of the herd to thunder away down the valley. Now it is 4 against 1. But the one is 2 tons of enraged animal. The beast bellows, a sound that vibrates in your bones and charges the closest hunter. Your companion, showing incredible agility, doesn't run back, but leaps sideways at the last possible second. The morphology of your ankle bones is unique, perhaps giving you an explosive power in lateral movements, a kind of sprinter's ankle for dodging death. This is the brutal reality of your life. The fossil record is filled with your kin whose bones show the devastating consequences of these encounters. Healed fractures of the skull, neck, ribs, and arms are common. The pattern of injury is so distinctive, so focused on the upper body and head, that scientists have found only one modern comparison: professional rodeo riders. You are, in the most literal sense, bull riding a mammoth. Now is your chance. The mammoth's charge has left its flank exposed to you. You summon every ounce of power in your dense, muscular frame. You are not throwing the spear. You are becoming the spear. In 3 powerful strides, you close the distance and thrust forward with the full weight of your body. The sharpened flint point, a tool you crafted with such care, hits the animal's side with a sickening wet thud. You feel the shock of the impact travel up the wooden shaft and into your arm and shoulder. The spear sinks deep into the thick, hairy hide. But the fight is not over. It has just become more desperate. The mammoth screams, a sound of pure agony and fury, and thrashes wildly, snapping the spear shaft. The point remains buried in its side. The animal is wounded, bleeding, and now it knows exactly who its enemies are. It turns its massive head, its small, hate-filled eyes fixing directly on you. The other hunters are closing in, spears ready, but in this moment, there is only you and the wounded beast, and the frozen ground that is about to be soaked in red. The world narrows to a maelstrom of terror and pain. The wounded mammoth, spear point buried in its side, is a force of pure agony. It pivots, its tusks scything through the air where you stood only a moment before. But it is no longer 4 against 1. It is now a coordinated assault. While you draw the beast's attention, another hunter rushes in from the side, landing a deep thrust in its powerful shoulder. The mammoth bellows and turns to face the new threat, giving a third hunter the chance to strike at its hind leg, attempting to sever a tendon and immobilize it. It's a brutal, bloody, and exhausting dance of attrition. You are bleeding from a long gash on your forearm, and another hunter is limping badly, his leg likely broken from a glancing blow. But you press the attack, jabbing and retreating, forcing the great beast to lose more and more blood, its movements becoming slower, its trumpeting calls weaker. Finally, with a great shuddering sigh that seems to shake the very ground, the mammoth sinks to its knees and then crashes onto its side. The thud is immense, final. And then, silence. A silence more profound than the one that came before the dawn. The only sounds are the ragged, desperate gasps of the 4 of you, leaning on your spears, chests heaving. The air, once sharp with the cold, is now thick with the coppery smell of blood and the musky scent of the beast's fear. You stand over the mountain of fur and flesh, your knuckles white on the shaft of your spear. Is this triumph? Yes, a fierce, primal surge of it. Your family will eat well. You have survived. But as you look at the mammoth's eye, still open and staring at the grey sky, you feel something else. A quiet, solemn respect for the immense life you have just taken. We have no way of knowing what you truly felt, of course. Did Neanderthals have rituals or beliefs associated with the animals they killed? Perhaps placing the skull in a specific way as a sign of respect? Or was the process purely utilitarian? The evidence is ambiguous, but in this moment, a quiet solemnity hangs in the air before the real work begins. The work is far from over. In fact, the most technically demanding part of the day has just begun. The butchering. This is not a frantic hacking of meat. It is a skilled and systematic disassembly of the carcass, a display of anatomical knowledge passed down through generations. You are not just a hunter. You are an expert butcher, and you know this animal inside and out. The first task is to remove the thick, shaggy hide. You and your companions pull out your razor-sharp flint flakes, the simplest but most effective tools in your kit. You make a long, deep incision from the throat to the tail, then begin the laborious process of peeling the skin back from the muscle and fat. Your tools dull quickly against the tough hide. One of the hunters pauses, takes out a small, smooth river stone, a retoucher, and with a few sharp, precise taps, re-sharpens the edge of his flint knife before continuing. It's a mobile workshop, ensuring maximum efficiency on the job. Once the hide is removed, you turn your attention to the meat. You carve away huge slabs of dark red muscle from the ribs, legs, and back. Your flint tools leave microscopic parallel grooves on the animal's bones. Under the electron microscopes of the future, these very cut marks will serve as the undeniable scientific proof of your people's butchery practices, distinguishing them clearly from the tooth marks of scavenging animals. You are a master of efficiency. Nothing will be wasted. The prime cuts of meat will be carried back for the whole family. The heart and liver, rich in vitamins, will be eaten here, on the spot, your reward for the hunt. The long bones will be smashed open with heavy chopper stones to get at the rich, calorie-dense marrow inside. The tendons will be carefully removed, dried, and later used as cordage and thread. The thick layers of fat will be rendered down for fuel in simple stone lamps. Even the skull will be emptied, and the brain used for tanning the hide, as you've seen your mate do. The entire animal is a gift, and you, as a highly efficient butcher, are programmed to use every single part of it. The mammoth lies in pieces. The air is thick with the smell of blood and accomplishment. But a new, daunting reality sets in. Your cave, your home, is several miles away across difficult, broken terrain. You have no wheels, no carts, no domesticated animals to help you. Every single pound of this life-saving bounty of meat, fat, and hide must be transported by the power of your own muscles. This is the unglamorous, back-breaking epilogue to the heroic hunt. First, you must decide what to take. You are a pragmatist, a master of cost-benefit analysis. The massive, heavy skull and the vertebral column contain relatively little meat for their immense weight. You will leave them behind. You focus on the choicest, most nutrient-rich parts, the massive limb bones, laden with meat and marrow, the ribs, and the vital organs. Archaeologists of the future will notice this pattern at your kill sites and campsites. They will call it the Schlepp effect. the overrepresentation of high-utility body parts at home bases. This clear scientific evidence shows that you didn't just kill and eat randomly. You had a logistical strategy for selectively transporting the best parts of the carcass back home. Next, you need a way to carry the load. You take a large section of the mammoth's own hide and lay it on the ground, fur side down, creating a natural sledge. You pile the huge joints of meat and heavy bones onto this makeshift travois. You then cut long, thin strips of the same hide to fashion crude ropes. Some of these you use to tie the bundles securely, while others you fashion into tump lines, straps that will go around your foreheads, allowing you to use the powerful muscles of your neck and back to help drag the immense weight. Then the journey begins. It is a slow, agonizing, brutal slog. The hide sledge, laden with hundreds of pounds of meat, catches on every rock and shrub. The tump line cuts into your forehead, and every muscle in your legs, back, and shoulders screams in protest. Your wide pelvis and low center of gravity, the build of a modern powerlifter, makes you incredibly stable and strong, perfectly adapted for exactly this kind of grueling work. But it is still a monumental effort. Your companion with the broken leg can barely walk, let alone help pull, so the burden on the three of you is even greater. This is a testament to your endurance and sheer, stubborn strength. Your slow pace and the overwhelming smell of blood have not gone unnoticed. You catch a new scent on the wind, a rank, carrion smell. On a nearby ridge, a pack of massive cave hyenas has appeared, their powerful shoulders hunched, their whooping calls echoing in the valley. They are emboldened by your companion's injury, sensing weakness. You and the other two hunters stop, plant your feet, and raise your spears, letting out a series of threatening roars. It is a tense standoff. The hyenas are powerful and numerous, but they are also cowards. After a few minutes of circling and testing your resolve, they decide the risk is too great and slink away, waiting for you to leave so they can pick over the scraps. The decision to haul all this meat back to a specific place is itself a subject of debate. Were Neanderthals central place foragers who operated from a consistent home base? Or did they live a more nomadic life, consuming large kills on the spot and then moving on? Your actions today are a strong vote for the former. The cave is your base, a place of safety and community. This is why your ancestors chose it, a strategic location on a high ledge overlooking this very valley, allowing you to spot game from miles away. And as the sun begins to dip towards the horizon, you finally see it. A dark opening in the cliff face, with a thin wisp of smoke rising from it. Home. You are battered, bleeding, and exhausted beyond measure, but you have done it. You have brought the harvest home. As you and the other hunters make the final agonizing climb to the ledge of the cave, a cry goes up from inside. Your family rushes out to meet you. The joy and relief on their faces is a palpable force. They see the blood, the injuries, and the exhaustion, but they also see the massive bounty of meat you are dragging behind you. Your mate rushes to your side, her hands gently probing the gash on your arm with a look of concern. The old man places a hand on your shoulder, a gesture of profound respect. Your daughter stares wide-eyed at the mountain of red meat, a grin spreading across her face. This is the moment all the pain and risk was for, the survival and security of your family. Before the feast can begin, the wounded must be tended to. Your mate, the group's de facto healer, gets to work. She cleans your gash with moss soaked in clean water from a captured pool and applies a poultice of crushed yarrow leaves to stem the bleeding. The other hunter's leg is a more serious matter. She examines the swollen, discolored limb, and with the old man's help, they straighten it as best they can. They then pack it with damp clay and wrap it tightly with strips of hide, creating a primitive but effective splint. He will be unable to hunt for a long time, but thanks to the community's care, he will likely survive. Then, the celebration begins. The fire, which for so long has been a small, carefully conserved resource, is now built up into a roaring blaze. The hearth is the absolute focal point of your social life, the place where your community comes together. Your mate sprinkles a handful of black powder, manganese dioxide, a mineral you gather from a nearby outcrop, onto the embers, and the flames roar higher and hotter. Archaeologists debate the purpose of this mineral. Some think it was used for body paint, but a leading theory suggests it was a fire accelerant, a way to lower wood's combustion temperature. Tonight, it's fuel for a feast. The smell of roasting fat fills the cave, a scent of victory and abundance. The choicest, most nutrient-rich organ meats are cooked first, sizzling on hot, flat stones placed by the edge of the fire. There are no plates or forks. You eat with your hands and your flint knives, tearing at the hot, life-giving meat. The entire family gathers around the blaze, a tight circle of warmth and light against the vast, cold darkness of the world. After the first wave of ravenous hunger is sated, you take one of the mammoth's huge femur bones and place it on a large rock. With a heavy hammerstone, you smash it open, exposing the rich, creamy, and incredibly calorie-dense marrow inside. Everyone gets a share, scooping it out with their fingers. This behavior, the systematic extraction of marrow, is one of the classic signatures archaeologists find at Neanderthal sites, clear scientific evidence of your nutritional priorities. With bellies full and the immediate danger past, it is time for the story. You, as the lead hunter, are the narrator. You stand before the fire, your shadow dancing on the cave wall behind you. Using the rich, theatrical language of gesture and sound, you recount the day's events. You reenact the stalk, your body low to the ground. You mimic the mammoth's trumpeting call, the sound echoing in the cavern. You show the terrifying charge, the last-second dodge of your companion, and the final brutal thrust of the spear. The child watches, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. This is not just entertainment. It is a lesson. It is how she learns about courage, teamwork, and the sacred, dangerous relationship between hunter and prey. The scene itself speaks to a key debate. How rigid were gender roles and the division of labor in Neanderthal society? While you and the other men may have led this dangerous hunt, the source text reminds us that all strong members took part in providing food, and here, at the feast, the work of butchering, cooking, and healing is a shared, communal effort. For tonight, at least, the constant struggle for survival is over. There is only the warmth of the fire, the taste of meat, and the safety of the family. Several weeks have passed since the mammoth hunt. The immediate euphoria of the feast has settled into a quiet sense of security. Strips of mammoth meat are hung to dry in the colder parts of the cave, and the great hide is being slowly worked into shelter and clothing. Life has found a stable, comfortable rhythm. But in the back of the cave, a different rhythm is coming to an end. The old man, your uncle, is dying. His breath, for so long a ragged, wheezing sound, has become soft and shallow. His pain seems to have finally eased. The family gathers around him, not in a panic, but in a quiet, solemn vigil. You sit beside him, your hand on his chest, feeling the last faint beats of his heart. And then they stop. A profound quiet descends upon the cave, a silence heavier than any you have known before. You look at your mate, and you see tears tracing clean paths through the grime on her cheeks. Your daughter clings to her mother's leg, her face buried in the furs. There is no loud wailing, no dramatic display. There is only a deep, shared, and unmistakable current of grief. This quiet sorrow is a direct contradiction to the myth of the unfeeling brute. It is a sign of a complex emotional life, of a species that understands mortality and feels the pain of loss. You know what must be done. You will not leave his body to the hyenas and the vultures. His journey with the family is over, but he will remain with you in this place. You are a Neanderthal, and you are part of the first hominin species on Earth to consistently and deliberately bury its dead. A revolutionary behavior that signals the dawn of symbolic thought. You and the other hunter begin to dig a shallow pit in a soft patch of earth at the back of the cave, using sharpened digging sticks and your own powerful hands to scoop out the soil. Once the grave is ready, you gently lift the old man's body. You don't simply place him in the hole, you arrange him with care. You draw his knees up to his chest, folding him into a flexed, fetal position, as if he were sleeping. Some of your kin, in other places, bury their dead in this way, carefully orienting the body to face the rising sun. It's a quirky, unprovable detail, but it has led some future scientists to speculate about a nascent form of cosmology, a first stirring of belief in a world beyond this one. Your mate comes forward. In her hands, she holds a small, vibrant bouquet of wildflowers she gathered from a sheltered meadow. There are bright yellow buttercups, purple grape hyacinths, and the white heads of yarrow. She gently places the flowers on his chest. This single, poignant act was famously suggested by the discovery of a Neanderthal skeleton in Shanidar Cave, the same place where the disabled elder was found. This skeleton, Shanidar 4, was surrounded by clumps of ancient flower pollen, leading the excavator to propose the beautiful and controversial theory of the flower burial. While some scientists now argue that burrowing rodents could have brought the pollen into the grave, the image of your people offering flowers to their dead remains a powerful symbol of your humanity. You look at this grave and think of others you have seen. A staggering number of them, over a third that archaeologists will ever find, are for children under the age of 4. The source text notes that these small graves often seem to receive the greatest care, a heartbreaking testament to the love and grief you feel for your most vulnerable. Finally, you begin to push the soil back into the pit, covering the old man's body, the flowers, and the story of his life. And here lies the central, unanswered question that will fascinate researchers for millennia. Why did Neanderthals bury their dead? Was it a truly symbolic act, born of a belief in an afterlife and a need for ritual? Or was it a more practical solution to keep the bodies of loved ones from being desecrated by scavengers? As you place the last handful of earth on the grave, the answer feels irrelevant. You did it because it was the right thing to do. He was family. In the quiet days that follow the old man's burial, a contemplative mood settles over the family. The daily rhythms of life continue, prepping hides, checking weapons, gathering food. But the sharp edge of grief has softened into a thoughtful silence. It is in these moments of quiet, when the relentless pressure of survival eases just a little, that new kinds of thoughts can begin to stir. Your species is on the cusp of another profound cognitive leap, the birth of art. One afternoon, your daughter is playing on the ledge outside the cave. Her attention is captured by a soft, crumbly rock with a deep, earthy red color. It is a lump of ochre, an iron-rich clay that you have seen before, but perhaps paid little attention to. She picks it up, and the red pigment instantly stains her fingers. Intrigued, she rubs her hand on a large, pale limestone boulder, leaving a vivid, startling red handprint. She stares at it, mesmerized. She has made a mark. She has taken a color from the earth and imposed it on the world, a deliberate act of transformation. She spends the rest of the afternoon grinding the soft rock against the boulder, creating lines, dots, and smudges of brilliant red. She is not drawing a mammoth or a hunter. Her creations are abstract, a pure exploration of color and form. This is not just idle play. Your people were the first hominins to systematically collect and use mineral pigments, like red ochre and black manganese dioxide, with evidence of their use found at numerous sites across Europe. You seem to have been drawn to these colors, to their symbolic power. Red is the color of blood, the essence of both life and death. It is the color of the setting sun and the heart of your life-giving fire. To truly understand the significance of your daughter's simple act, we must travel south and forward in time, to a cave in what will one day be Spain, more than 65,000 years ago. There, deep within the earth, are paintings that will rewrite the story of art. We aren't talking about the breathtaking animal murals of Lascaux or Chauvet. Those will be created by the new humans, tens of thousands of years in the future. This is something older, more elemental. On the calcite formations of a cave wall is a simple ladder-like shape, painted in bold red lines. Elsewhere, there is a spray of red dots and the unmistakable outline of a human hand, created by placing a hand against the wall and spitting red pigment over it. For decades, the creators of this art were unknown. But then, a revolutionary new dating technique was used. Scientists tested the thin layers of calcite that had formed over the top of the paintings, using a method called uranium-thorium, dating to pinpoint when that mineral crust had formed. The results were staggering. The paintings were more than 65,000 years old, at least 20,000 years before modern humans are thought to have arrived in Europe. The artists could only have been Neanderthals. Your people. Back on your cave ledge, your daughter picks up another piece of ochre and scrapes it against a harder stone, shaping it into a rough point, like a crayon. Archaeologists will find these exact objects, pigment crayons, with clear facets and scraped tips, proving that their use was deliberate and skilled. As she draws another red line, a fundamental question arises, one that experts still ponder. Was this the beginning of art for art's sake, an expression of beauty and emotion? Or were these marks functional? Perhaps trail markers, territorial claims, or part of a ritual we can't comprehend. Perhaps the distinction doesn't matter. What matters is the act itself, the desire to make a mark, to change the world, to say, in a blaze of silent, brilliant color, I was here. The fire burns low. The family is asleep, their bellies full of dried mammoth meat. In the quiet of the late evening, you take out a small leather pouch. Inside is a personal treasure, an object with no practical purpose whatsoever. It provides no food, no warmth, no utility as a tool. Its value is purely symbolic. It is the long, curved, and wickedly sharp talon of a golden eagle, taken from a bird you killed months ago. You hold it in your palm, feeling its smooth, hard surface, its deadly point. It is a reminder of your skill, a token of your power over the wild things of this world. There is a growing body of evidence to suggest that your people, long before the arrival of modern humans, were creating and wearing these kinds of personal ornaments. This behavior is a massive leap in cognition. It is one thing to make a tool to act upon the world. It is another thing entirely to make an object to define your place within it. It is the beginning of self-awareness and personal identity. You take out a small, incredibly sharp flint awl, a tool you crafted specifically for this kind of delicate work. Bracing the eagle talon against a piece of soft wood, you begin the slow, painstaking process of drilling a hole through the tough bone at its base. You twist the awl back and forth, your powerful hands demonstrating a surprising delicacy. The work is slow and requires immense concentration. One slip, one moment of too much pressure, and the talon will crack, destroying it. After a long while, you break through. You have created a perfect, neat perforation. Next, you take a thin but strong thread of dried sinew and carefully work it through the new hole, tying it off with a secure knot. You have just created a piece of jewelry, a simple but profoundly meaningful pendant. You lift it over your head and let it rest against your chest. This is not for camouflage, this is for communication. Wearing this tells the rest of your group, and any strangers you might meet, something important about you. It says, "I am a hunter of skill and daring. I can best the master of the skies." It's the Stone Age equivalent of a trophy or a medal. This is not a flight of fancy. At a site in Krapina, Croatia, archaeologists unearthed a stunning collection of white-tailed eagle talons dating back 130,000 years. These were not just random bird bones. They bore clear, undeniable cut marks, abrasions, and a specific kind of polish, providing clear scientific evidence that they had been deliberately modified and likely strung together and worn as a necklace or bracelet. This was a bombshell discovery, proving that Neanderthal symbolic behavior was far older than previously thought. Interestingly, your people seem to have had a specific preference for feathers and talons from large, impressive birds of prey and corvids, eagles, vultures, and ravens. This quirky detail suggests you were not just choosing pretty objects. You were choosing symbols of power, intelligence, and ferocity, perhaps in an attempt to absorb some of those qualities for yourself. As you admire your new adornment, a complex question emerges, one that challenges our understanding of your people's journey. The oldest ornaments, like the Krapina talons, clearly predate the arrival of Homo sapiens in Europe. But other, later examples of Neanderthal jewelry come from a time when the two human species coexisted. This has sparked a fierce debate. Did Neanderthals develop symbolic adornment entirely on their own? Or were they later influenced by the new, symbol-heavy culture of the arriving Homo sapiens? Were you innovators, or were you just very good at copying your new neighbors? The evidence from Krapina strongly suggests you were the original authors of this symbolic leap, another testament to the richness and depth of your own unique inner world. The cave is a cavern of deep sleep. The only sounds are the soft breathing of your family and the gentle crackle of the last few embers in the hearth. You are alone with your thoughts, staring into the fading glow. In this profound quiet, with the world outside held at bay by the fire and the rock, your mind is free to wander. The capacity for symbolic thought that is dawning in your species, evidenced by your burials and your ornaments, suggests a rich and complex inner world, a level of self-awareness that was, for a very long time, thought to be the exclusive domain of the humans to come. Your thoughts drift back over the last moon. You see the mammoth falling, a mountain of life crashing to the earth. You feel the ghost of the old man's last breath on your hand. You see the vibrant red handprint your daughter left on the boulder, a small mark of defiance against the grey world. You touch the eagle talon at your chest, a point of sharp, solid reality. These are not just memories of events. They are becoming something more. They are the seeds of a story, your story. This ability to link past events, present feelings, and future plans is the essence of a modern consciousness. The very flint in your toolkit is evidence of this. Some of the best stone you possess comes from an outcrop that is a week's journey away. A place you travel to not because you need a tool today, but because you will need one next season. This long-distance transport of resources is clear scientific proof of your foresight and complex mental maps. What do you dream about? When you descend into the darkness of sleep, does your mind replay the terror of the hunt, the near miss with the tusk, in a chaotic nightmare? Or do you dream of impossible hunts, of mammoths made of clouds and spears that never miss? Do you dream of the old man? Does he visit you, not as a memory, but as a presence, offering a piece of silent advice from a world beyond the grave? It is in these unprovable, unknowable realms of the mind that the first stirrings of a spirit world may have been born. For a time, it was thought your people had elaborate rituals. A cave in Switzerland called Drachenloch was said to have contained cave bear skulls carefully arranged in a stone chest, a romantic and quirky idea of a cult of the cave bear. While this is now largely believed to be the result of natural water and rock movements, the fact that we could even imagine it speaks to the potential for myth-making that your symbolic acts suggest. As you stare into the dying fire, do you see the first story? Not a story told with words, but a silent myth passed down through gestures. A story of how the first fire was stolen from the lightning. A story of a great ancestor who wrestled a cave lion. A story that explains why the sun rises and the moon grows full and then fades away. These proto-myths, simple and archetypal, may have been your way of making sense of a world that was both terrifying and beautiful. This leads to the ultimate question about your mind, a debate that cuts to the very core of what it means to be human. Was the Neanderthal mind like ours, with cognitive fluidity, where knowledge from different domains like tool-making, social life, and nature could easily mix to create new abstract ideas like art and religion? Or was their intelligence more domain-specific, highly advanced in practical areas but limited in its ability to think symbolically? The eagle talon at your chest, an object that blends knowledge of nature, the eagle, with the skill of tool-making, the awl, to create a new concept, social status, is a powerful argument for a mind that was already fluid, creative, and startlingly like our own. The embers fade to black, and you are left alone with the silent, profound mystery of your own waking consciousness. The seasons are turning. The air has a new, sharper bite to it, and the migratory herds that you follow are beginning to move south. Your family must move too. Your life is a nomadic one, a constant cycle of movement from summer hunting grounds to sheltered winter camps. You pack your few belongings, hides for warmth, toolkits of stone and bone, and a precious, carefully guarded ember pot to keep your fire alive. This journey will take you through the territory of others. You are not entirely alone in this vast, empty world. Your species, even at its absolute peak, had a tiny total population, perhaps only 52,000 individuals scattered across 2 continents. More often, the number was likely closer to 10 or 20,000. You are an endangered species that doesn't know it. Because of this, an encounter with another family group is a rare and significant event. Neanderthals lived in small, mobile family units, but you were not completely isolated. You formed larger social networks, essential for sharing information, resources, and most importantly, for finding mates outside your immediate gene pool. After several days of travel, you see the sign, a thin column of smoke rising from a valley several miles ahead. These are not strangers exactly. You have met this group before. But the encounter is still approached with caution. You stop at the crest of a hill overlooking their camp. They have seen you too. For a long moment, the 2 groups simply observe one another across the distance, a silent, ritualized assessment. They are people, like you. Their bodies have the same powerful build, their faces the same familiar features. But there are subtle differences. You notice the way they haft their spear points is slightly different from yours, a stylistic quirk that has no functional advantage. It's a quirky, cultural fingerprint, the Stone Age equivalent of a regional accent. The tension breaks. The leader of the other group gives a slow, welcoming gesture. Your family proceeds down into their camp. The greeting is a series of familiar grunts and nods. There may be a trade. You have brought several pre-prepared cores of that high-quality flint from near your summer cave, a valuable commodity. They, in turn, are masters of tanning reindeer hides, and their leather is softer and more pliable than yours. A fair exchange is made without a single word being spoken. The source text reminds us that these groups would often team up for large hunts, and you might discuss a joint effort to track a herd of bison that was recently spotted nearby. The primary reason for these meetings, however, is genetic survival. The stark reality of your small, scattered population is written in your DNA. Genetic analysis of Neanderthal remains, particularly the famous Altai Neanderthal from Denisova Cave, shows long stretches of homozygosity, a clear genetic signature of inbreeding. Your gene pool is dangerously shallow. To survive, you must exchange members. You observe a young woman from the other group. It is likely that she will one day leave her own family to join another, like yours, to find a mate. This raises a fascinating question for anthropologists, who still debate your social structures. Did females leave their birth group to join their mate's family in a patrilocal system, or did males move to join the female's group in a matrilocal one? The limited genetic evidence available seems to suggest that it was most often the females who traveled between groups, weaving a thin genetic thread that held your entire species together. For now, you share their fire and their food. It is a rare chance for a larger social gathering, a break from the intense intimacy of your small family unit. You are all part of the same human tapestry, thinly stretched across a vast and unforgiving world. But a new thread is about to appear on the horizon, one that will change your world forever. You are on the move again, following the herds as the seasons continue their slow, inexorable turn. The world is as it has always been, a familiar tapestry of sensations. The scent of pine needles crushed underfoot, the sight of a hawk circling in the vast grey sky, the feeling of the wind on your face, carrying the promise of rain. For 300,000 years, your ancestors have walked this land, and its rhythms are etched into your very bones. You know its secrets, its dangers, its bounties. But lately, something is different. A new, discordant note has appeared in the ancient song of the world. It started subtly, as a scent on the wind. It was the smell of a campfire, but it was wrong. The smoke was thinner, carrying the aroma of a different kind of wood than the pines and birches you typically burn. At first you dismissed it. A trick of the wind, a strange log carried downriver. But the signs grew. One morning, by a stream, you find footprints in the soft mud. They are tracks of a human, but they are not the tracks of your people. Your own footprint is broad and solid, the print of a powerful, stable creature. These are longer, narrower, with a high, pronounced arch you have never seen before. They speak of a different kind of body, a different way of moving across the land. A few days later, you find a kill. It is a reindeer, but the scene is unsettlingly strange. Your people kill with overwhelming close-quarters force. This animal was killed from a distance. The wound is small and neat, and there is only one. Lying half-buried in the grass nearby is the cause, a spear point, but unlike any you have ever seen. Your own Mysterian points are broad, leaf-shaped, and made for thrusting. This point is long, slender, and almost elegant, like a sharpened blade. It belongs to a different technology, a different mind. This is the handiwork of the Aurignacian culture, the signature of the new humans who are beginning to push into Europe from the east. This is the beginning of a period of coexistence, a time when two kinds of humanity will walk the same landscapes. For thousands of years, your worlds will overlap. This was not a blitzkrieg, a sudden invasion. The nature of this overlap is a subject of intense scholarly debate. Was the arrival of these new people a rapid, wave-like replacement? Or was it a slow, patchy, and complex process of infiltration and interaction that lasted for millennia? The strange, ghostly signs you are finding suggest the latter. A slow creep, a world changing by almost imperceptible degrees. As you examine the strange kill site, your daughter finds something small and white in the grass. It is a tiny seashell with a neat, perfectly drilled hole in it. You turn the delicate object over in your thick fingers. It is a bead, an object of adornment, but it is utterly alien to you. The sea is a journey of many weeks from here. To carry something so small and seemingly useless for such a distance, it speaks to a mind that is preoccupied with a different kind of symbolism, a level of decoration and personal expression that is new to you. You stand and scan the horizon. You see nothing but the endless, empty landscape. But you know, with a certainty that makes the hair on your arms stand up, that you are no longer alone. The world has not grown smaller, but it has suddenly become more crowded. There are new hunters on this land, hunters with strange feet, strange weapons, and strange ideas. A deep, primal sense of unease settles in your gut. The familiar world you have known your entire life is beginning to feel like a foreign country. A few days later, it happens. Your family is traversing a high, rocky ridge that gives you a commanding view of the wide, grassy valley below. You are moving cautiously, staying to the shadows of the rock formations, when your mate suddenly freezes and gives a low, sharp grunt, pointing down. You follow her gaze, and your heart gives a hard, heavy thud against your ribs. There they are, the new people, the makers of the strange tracks and the slender spear points. This is your first sighting. They are a group of about 15, moving in a loose column near the river. The initial shock is one of form. They are unmistakably human, walking on two legs, carrying tools, and moving with purpose. But their bodies are all wrong. Where you are broad and immensely powerful, they are tall and thin. They seem impossibly fragile, their long, slender limbs and narrow torsos, a stark contrast to your own stocky, cold-adapted build. Anatomically modern humans and your own people have distinctly different body plans, each a perfect adaptation to different ancestral climates. Your robust frame is for conserving heat in the ice ages. Their linear physique is a design born in the warmer climates of Africa, a body built to dissipate heat. From your hidden vantage point, you study their anatomy, a study that future paleontologists will replicate with your fossilized bones. Their skulls are shaped differently. Where yours is long and low, theirs is high, short, and domed, as if an invisible hand were pushing up from the inside. They have no heavy, protective brow ridge. Their faces are flat, tucked beneath the forehead, and on the bottom of their jaw is a strange, jutting prominence of bone you have never seen before. It is the chin, a uniquely Homo sapiens feature, a small but defining characteristic of their kind. It's not just their shape, but their movement. They walk with a bouncy, efficient, long-distance stride, a gait for endurance running. Their whole being seems lighter, less tied to the earth than your own powerful, deliberate tread. And they are noisy. From this distance you can hear the constant murmur of their voices. It's not a series of grunts and gestures. It is a flowing, complex cascade of sounds. It is language, a tool as potent as any spear, allowing them to share complex information with a speed and precision you cannot match. You look at their behavior. Their group is larger than your family unit. They seem to carry more possessions, slung in finely made hide bags. They are adorned with decorations, necklaces of shells and animal teeth that flash in the pale sunlight. Everything about them speaks of a different kind of life, one that is faster, more vocal, and more decorated than your own. As you watch them, a fundamental and unsettling question begins to form in your mind, a version of a debate that will rage among future scientists. Are these new people fundamentally more intelligent than you, with a superior brain? Or are their advantages purely cultural, a more efficient language and a technology that can be more rapidly shared and improved upon, allowing them to build on the knowledge of previous generations in a new and exponential way? You feel a complex mix of emotions. There is no immediate aggression. There is a deep, unnerving curiosity. There is a primal apprehension, a feeling that the world has just fundamentally and irrevocably changed. These are not just another family of people like the ones you met weeks ago. These are other. You pull your own child closer to you, your eyes never leaving the tall, thin people as they slowly disappear down the valley, leaving behind nothing but a new and profound silence. The presence of the new people has changed the landscape. You move with a new kind of caution, your senses alert not just for prey and predators, but for them. One day you are stalking a small herd of reindeer, your family spread out in a familiar ambush pattern. It is a difficult stalk. The reindeer are skittish, and the terrain is open. As you crawl towards a promising position, you spot movement on the far side of the small valley. It is them, the tall, thin people, and they are hunting the same herd. You freeze, pulling back into the cover of a rocky outcrop. This is not a confrontation. It is an opportunity to observe. You watch as 3 of their hunters approach the herd. But they are doing everything wrong. They are not fanning out to encircle the animals. They are not trying to get close. They stop at a distance that you would consider laughably, impossibly far away. From this range, your heavy spear would fall to the earth before it had traveled even half the distance. It makes no sense. Then you see it. One of the hunters holds a strange-looking stick, about the length of his forearm, with a hook at one end. He notches the back of his spear into this hook. The spear itself is wrong, too. It's not the thick, robust weapon you carry. It is a long, slender, almost delicate dart, and at its back you can see a strange tuft. It is fletched with feathers, like the tail of a bird. What happens next is a moment of pure, reality-breaking shock. The hunter does not throw the spear with his arm. He whips the stick forward in a long, fluid arc. The stick acts as a lever, an extension of his arm, and the slender dart is launched with a speed and force that seems to defy nature. It doesn't wobble or tumble. It flies with a flat, stable trajectory, the feathers at its back keeping it true. It covers the vast distance to the herd in the blink of an eye, a deadly zip of motion, and strikes one of the reindeer high on its flank, burying itself deep. The animal stumbles, runs a few more paces, and then collapses. The kill is made. The other reindeer scatter, and the hunters walk calmly towards their prize. You are left staring, your mind struggling to process what you have just witnessed. It is like watching a magic trick. They did not risk their bodies. They did not engage in a terrifying close-quarters dance with their prey. They killed with their minds, with a sophisticated understanding of physics that they have turned into a weapon. This is the atlatl, or spear thrower, and it is the single greatest technological advantage that early modern humans possessed. This projectile technology gave them a massive edge over your people and your heavy, thrusting spears. The psychological impact of this moment is profound. Your entire existence as a hunter is predicated on your immense strength, your courage, and your willingness to absorb brutal punishment in close combat. You have always been the apex predator, but you now realize you are outmatched. They acquire food with a fraction of the risk and a fraction of the energy. In the long run, this is an advantage that cannot be overcome. Future scientists, through the practice of experimental archaeology, will confirm this. They will reconstruct your spears and their atlatl darts, testing them to measure their effective range and power. These experiments will prove scientifically what you have just learned viscerally. The atlatl is 3 to 4 times more powerful and has a far greater range than your weapon. As you watch the tall, thin hunters calmly butchering their kill, you are forced to confront a terrifying question, a version of the big brain versus better tools debate. Is their success due to a fundamental difference in intelligence, or is it that they simply stumbled upon a key technological innovation that created a cascading series of advantages? Does this impossible weapon come from a mind that is simply better? Or is it a single brilliant idea that changes the rules of the game entirely? The answer is unclear, but as you quietly lead your own family away from the valley, empty-handed, a cold seed of doubt has been planted. For the first time in your life, you feel obsolete. The seasons pass. The world is now permanently changed. The tall, thin people are no longer a ghostly rumor or a shocking new sight. They are a fact of life, a new and unpredictable variable in the ancient calculus of survival. For these few thousand years, your two kinds of humanity will live side by side, sharing the same rivers, the same valleys, and the same dwindling herds of game. It is a period of uneasy coexistence. Your primary strategy is one of avoidance. You have become an expert at reading their signs, just as you read the tracks of a bison. You see the smoke from their fires on the horizon and instinctively lead your family in the opposite direction. You find their slender footprints by a river crossing and decide to find another place to get water. It is a silent, sprawling, continent-wide dance of trying not to step on each other's toes, the Pleistocene equivalent of having awkward new neighbors. But the world is only so big. Inevitably, you feel their presence. You arrive at a familiar grove of berry bushes to find it picked clean. You track a herd of reindeer to a natural ambush point, only to find the cold remains of a kill site, the distinctive marks of their slender blades on the scattered bones. The competition is real, and it is direct. Future scientists will prove this by analyzing the stable isotopes in the bones of both your people and the newcomers who lived in the same regions. The chemical signatures in the bone collagen will tell a clear story of diet, and that story is one of significant overlap. You were both hunting the same reindeer, the same wild horses, the same mammoths. You were in a direct, head-to-head competition for the exact same limited resources. Sometimes a more direct, though still distant encounter is unavoidable. One evening, as your family sits around your fire on a high ledge, you see the flicker of their fires in the valley below. They are close, too close. The next morning, you see their group moving along the valley floor. They see you, too. Everything stops. For a long, tense moment, the two groups just watch each other. There are no threatening gestures, no shouts of aggression. It is a silent acknowledgement, a mutual sizing up. You are two predators assessing each other's strength, two families wondering about the other's intentions. Then, as if by some unspoken agreement, they continue on their way, and you on yours. Is there any other kind of interaction? Perhaps. One day you find a tool lying on a rock near a river, a place you know other groups sometimes pass. It is made by one of your people. You recognize the workmanship. But it is a strange hybrid, a tool tradition archaeologists will call Châtelperronian. It is a Neanderthal tool, but it seems to be trying to imitate the long, blade-like style of the newcomers. Beside it is a pierced animal tooth, an ornament of their style, but made with a technique familiar to you. It is a quirky, puzzling find, a sign of cultural cross-pollination. It is in these objects that the most profound debate about your end begins. Will they destroy you in a wave of violent conflict? Or will the end be quieter, a slow fading away as they, with their better technology and faster population growth, simply outcompete you for every resource until there's nothing left? The pressure is mounting. Every season, you seem to see more of them. Their groups are larger, and they seem to have more surviving children. The vast, empty landscapes of your ancestors are beginning to feel crowded. The world is shrinking. For 300,000 years, you were the masters of this land. Now, you are no longer the only humans in town. For thousands of years, the relationship between your two peoples has been one of distance, a story of competition, avoidance, and silent observation. But in a world so sparsely populated, complete isolation is impossible. Proximity, and the curiosity that comes with it, will inevitably lead to contact. And in that contact lies the most profound and unexpected chapter of your story, one that will echo down to the present day. It happens during a winter of unprecedented cold. A blizzard of unimaginable fury rages for weeks, forcing both your family and a group of the newcomers to take shelter in the same vast, sprawling cave system. For days you are aware of each other, two families living at opposite ends of a great cavern, separated by a gulf of silence and suspicion. But the shared hardship, the universal misery of the endless cold, begins to wear down the barriers. One day, your son, now a young hunter, encounters one of their young women near the cave's hidden spring. There is a long, tense moment. There is no shared language between them, but there is a shared humanity. He sees not just a strange, thin creature, but a person. He notices the weariness in her eyes, the way she shivers in the cold. In a gesture of peace, he offers her a perfectly made flint scraper, a tool of his people. She, in return, takes off a simple necklace of polished animal teeth and offers it to him. In this silent exchange, a bridge is formed between two worlds. The narrative of this encounter is not one of violence or conquest, but of connection. In the long, dark days of the blizzard, a union occurs. It is this moment, and others like it happening in isolated pockets across Europe, that will ensure your people never truly disappear. This is not speculation. It is a fact written in the DNA of almost every modern human alive today. The revolutionary sequencing of the Neanderthal genome, made possible by DNA extracted from ancient bones found in places like Vindaya Cave in Croatia, allowed for a direct comparison with our own genetic code. The results were astounding. Modern humans of non-African descent carry, on average, between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA. You are a part of us. Your legacy is woven into the very fabric of our being. Time passes. The blizzard ends, and the two groups go their separate ways. But a part of them remains with you. Your son's mate is now one of them. And in time, she gives birth to a child of two worlds. You look at your grandchild and see a perfect living mosaic of both peoples. She has your wide chest and powerful frame, but her mother's high forehead and delicate hands. She is a symbol of a merged humanity, the first of a new kind of people. You notice she has your people's resilience to the cold, and her skin is tough, less prone to cuts and scrapes. It is a quirky but tangible inheritance. The specific Neanderthal genes that have survived most successfully in the modern human population are often related to the immune system and the production of keratin, a protein that strengthens skin, hair, and nails. Your ancient adaptations provided a genuine survival advantage to the newcomers as they moved into the harsh climates of Europe. You look at this healthy, thriving child, a living bridge between two streams of humanity. But this merging was not without its biological challenges. Geneticists still grapple with this question today. Were the hybrid offspring of these unions as fertile as purebred individuals? Some evidence in the modern human genome suggests that male hybrids, in particular, may have had reduced fertility. This could have been a key factor in your eventual disappearance, not a sudden extinction, but a slow genetic absorption into a much larger population, your unique lineage gradually diluted with every generation. But as you hold your grandchild's hand, you are not thinking of extinction. You are looking at survival. The years bleed into one another, each seemingly colder and harder than the last. The world itself is changing. The climate, always a fickle and dangerous beast, has become even more volatile, swinging between periods of intense cold and brief, arid thaws. This environmental instability is happening at the exact same time that the pressure from the newcomer population is growing. This is the beginning of the long twilight of your people, a slow and inexorable decline driven by the twin forces of climate change and competition. The most immediate and terrifying change is the silence in the valleys. You travel to the familiar hunting grounds, the places where you and your ancestors have taken mammoth and bison for millennia. But they are empty. The great herds are gone. Some have moved on, their ancient migration routes disrupted by the shifting climate. Others have been diminished, their numbers unable to recover from the hunting pressure of two human species. The newcomers, with their safe, efficient, long-range weapons, can kill more animals with less risk, and their larger populations require a constant, massive supply of meat. They are draining the world of its bounty. Your family is now in a constant state of hunger. The days of feasting on mammoth fat are a distant, dreamlike memory. Your hunts now focus on smaller, faster, and less rewarding prey. You spend days trying to corner a few wild horses, or trying to catch rabbits and birds with crude traps. A frustrating endeavor for a hunter built to wrestle with giants. The caloric math of survival no longer adds up. You expend more energy on the hunt than you get back from the meager kill. The scientific evidence for this dietary stress is clear in the archaeological record. Analysis of animal bones from the very last Neanderthal sites shows a dramatic shift away from large-bodied prey. Instead, archaeologists find the bones of smaller animals, birds, and even carnivores like foxes, a clear sign of a people forced to eat whatever they could find. The gnawing emptiness in your belly becomes a permanent feature of your life. The cold of winter bites deeper than ever before, as you no longer have the thick layers of body fat to insulate you. You feel your own immense strength beginning to wane. Your daughter is thin and small for her age. The stories around the fire are no longer of heroic hunts, but of yesterday's hunger and the uncertainty of tomorrow's. In the darkest moments of this long decline, some of your kind are driven to the ultimate taboo. At sites like Moula Gersi in France and El Cidrón in Spain, archaeologists have found Neanderthal bones bearing the exact same cut marks, percussion fractures, and signs of dismemberment as the animal bones found alongside them. The evidence is inescapable. Your people, in times of extreme starvation, sometimes resorted to cannibalism. In the deepest pit of your hunger, you look at the members of your own family, and for a fleeting, terrifying moment, the ancient calculation of survival includes a thought that shames you to your very core. As you stand on a ridge, looking out over another silent, empty valley, the great question of your extinction hangs in the cold air. Is it the changing world itself that is killing you, the shifting climate making the old ways impossible? Or is it the newcomers, who are simply better adapted to this new world, taking everything before you can get to it? You do not have the words for such a debate. You only know that the world is no longer yours. The herds have vanished, and a slow, quiet starvation has taken their place. The empty valleys and the constant gnawing hunger have a consequence that is just as devastating as starvation: isolation. The world has become too dangerous and too poor to support the social networks that once held your people together. The long journeys to meet other family groups are now a foolish risk, an expenditure of precious calories with no guarantee of reward. There is no surplus food to share, no surplus flint to trade. The thin, vital threads of connection that once stretched across the continent have snapped, one by one. Your family unit has become an island. As the newcomers and their incomprehensible numbers continue to expand, you are forced into a long retreat. You abandon the prime hunting grounds of the open steppe and fall back into the landscapes they find less desirable. You move into the harshest mountain ranges, the densest and coldest forests, and finally, to the very edge of the world itself. Your people are becoming a ghost species, clinging to existence in isolated pockets or refugia. The archaeological record shows this retreat with stark clarity. As scientists date the last known Neanderthal sites, a clear geographic pattern emerges. Your final strongholds are clustered in cul-de-sacs like the Iberian Peninsula and the rocky shores of Gibraltar, places where you could hold on for a few more centuries, cornered by a changing world. In your desperation, your family is forced to learn new tricks. You find a cave overlooking the great, crashing sea, a force of nature you have always viewed with suspicion. But here, there is food. You learn to watch the tides, to pry shellfish from the rocks, and to hunt the seals that haul themselves onto the beaches. In the Gorham's Cave complex in Gibraltar, one of the very last places your people will ever live, archaeologists will find the bones of seals and dolphins and piles of mussel shells, quirky and poignant evidence of your last-ditch effort to adapt and survive. But the isolation is a poison with a slow, creeping effect. The knowledge of your ancestors begins to fade. The complex, multi-step process of creating a perfect Levallois point becomes harder to remember without others to learn from and practice with. The exact location of the best medicinal plants is forgotten. The old stories are no longer told. Your culture, a rich tapestry woven over 300,000 years, is beginning to unravel. This social collapse is the subject of a deep and somber debate. Did your social networks collapse simply because the newcomers took over the land, making travel between groups impossible due to external pressure? Or did the constant stress and starvation cause your own social bonds to break down from within, leading to a kind of societal depression? The result, however, is the same. The genetic vortex begins to spin faster. With no access to other groups, your family's gene pool becomes a stagnant pond. Mating must occur between closer and closer relatives, and the devastating effects of inbreeding, which were once a rare problem, are now a constant reality. Fewer children are born, and those that are seem to have a frailty that was once unknown to your robust people. You travel for an entire season and see no signs of your own kind. No familiar campfires, no discarded Mysterian tools. The only other human tracks you find are the long, narrow prints of the newcomers. The profound species-level loneliness is a heavier burden than even the hunger. The world, once populated by your kin, is now an alien landscape. You are a stranger in your own home. Your world has shrunk to the size of your own body, and your body has become a world of hurt. The constant grinding reality of near starvation has changed your very physical existence. The immense power that once defined you, the explosive strength that could wrestle a giant beast to the ground, has faded, replaced by a deep and profound weariness that sleep can no longer cure. Your life has become an inventory of pain. The old injuries, the proud scars of 100 dangerous hunts, are no longer dormant. The badly healed fracture in your shoulder, the legacy of a charging rhino, now sends a shooting pain down your arm with every movement. The arthritis that has been slowly growing in your joints for years, a common affliction for your people, now feels like fire in your knees and hips. Paleopathologists of the future will study your bones and see these very things, the telltale signs of osteoarthritis and the ghostly outlines of healed trauma. And they will write papers about the incredibly demanding and dangerous lifestyle your people led. For them, it is a scientific observation. For you, it is the chronic, debilitating pain that greets you every morning. Your greatest strengths have become your greatest liabilities. Your massive, powerful muscles require a huge number of calories to maintain, and in a world without mammoths, they are a luxury you can no longer afford. You feel them wasting away, your strength seeping out of you day by day. Your entire physique, a masterpiece of engineering for a world of explosive power and brutal cold, is ill-suited to this new world of scarcity. The newcomers, with their light frames and endurance runners build, can travel farther and longer on fewer calories, seeking out the last pockets of game that you can no longer reach. Genetic studies may one day suggest your people had a higher pain threshold than modern humans, a quirky biological adaptation for a brutal life. But even your legendary toughness has a breaking point. This is a new kind of pain, not the sharp, clean pain of a sudden injury, but the dull, grinding, hopeless pain of a body that is slowly shutting down. The physical decay breeds a psychological one. The fierce will to survive, the resilient spirit that saw your ancestors through hundreds of thousands of years of ice ages, is being eroded. It is hard to feel hope when your body is a constant source of misery. The motivation to innovate, to try new strategies, is extinguished by the simple, all-consuming need to find the next meager meal. Then, the final blow comes not from a predator's claw or a rival's spear, but from within. Your mate, the woman who shared your life and your burdens, falls ill. It starts as a cough, a simple sickness that in better times, with a full belly and a strong body, she would have shaken off in a few days. But now, her immune system, weakened by years of malnutrition and stress, cannot fight back. The cough deepens, her body is racked by fever, and her breathing becomes a shallow rattle. You watch, helpless, as she fades away, your knowledge of medicinal plants useless against a body that has lost its own will to live. As you sit by her still form, the final grim debate about your people's fate becomes terrifyingly personal. What will be the final cause of your extinction? A new disease brought by the newcomers, to which you have no immunity? Violent conflict? Or will it be the simple, brutal fact of starvation and the slow, grinding breakdown of your bodies? Looking at your mate, lost not to a spectacular battle, but to a common sickness her body could no longer fight, you feel you have the answer. It is a quiet, agonizing, and deeply undramatic end. The world has become a series of ghosts. The ghost of your mate, the ghost of your son, lost in a reckless, desperate hunt for food that wasn't there. The ghosts of the great herds that once filled the plains. All that remains is you and your grandchild, the child of two worlds. You are all that is left of your family, and perhaps all that is left of your kind. The journey is no longer a migration with purpose. It is a slow, aimless wandering, a retreat into the final pages of your story. You are carrying the ember pot, but it has grown cold. For days, the coals have been sullen and weak, and you no longer have the strength for the constant, careful nurturing they require. The fire, the captured star that has been the heart of your people for hundreds of thousands of years, is dying. This fading warmth is a mirror of your own people's fate. The last Neanderthals are thought to have disappeared around 40,000 years ago, and you are living through those final, quiet moments. Your powerful body, once your greatest asset, has become your final betrayer. That stocky frame and dense muscle mass, so perfectly adapted for the cold, are incredibly energy-intensive. This biological quirk, a law of unintended consequences, means you require far more calories to survive than the slender newcomers. In a world of plenty, it made you a king. In a world of scarcity, it is a fatal flaw, accelerating your starvation. You find one last cave. It is small, barely a hollow in the rock, but it offers a sliver of shelter from the wind. You and the child huddle inside, wrapped in the last of your worn-out furs. You tip the ember pot onto the dusty floor. A few tiny grayish coals tumble out, only one of which has a faint pinprick of red light left in it. You lean down, your breath catching in your ruined lungs, and blow. You blow with all the remaining strength you have, trying to coax that last spark back to life. But there is no tinder, no fuel, and no hope. The tiny red spark glows a little brighter, holds for a heart-wrenching moment, and then, with a final, soft sigh, it winks out. The darkness that fills the cave is absolute. It is a cold, crushing, and final blackness. The fire is gone. For the first time in your life, you are without its light and its warmth. This is the moment that archaeologists of the future will search for, using radiocarbon dating on the charcoal from the last Neanderthal campfires to mark the very end of your long reign. As you sit in the dark, holding the child close for warmth, the story of your end plays out in your mind. Was it one single thing? A great plague brought by the newcomers? A sudden, catastrophic shift in the climate? Or was it, as seems more likely, a slow, agonizing death by 1,000 cuts? This is the final great debate. Was there a single killer, a smoking gun that wiped out your people? Or was it a perfect storm of climate change, competition, disease, absorption into the new human gene pool, and simple, tragic bad luck that pushed you over the edge? You do not know the answer. You only know the cold. You hold the child, this strange and beautiful legacy, a creature who carries your blood but belongs to a different world. You are the last of the true people. The sun will rise tomorrow, but for the Neanderthals, the world has already gone dark. The darkness in the cave is absolute, and for you, the Neanderthal, this is where the story ends. But for your legacy, it is just the beginning. 40,000 years pass in the blink of a geological eye. The great ice sheets retreat, and the world you knew disappears beneath a blanket of green forests and fertile soil. The newcomers, the tall, thin people, thrive and multiply. They build villages, then cities, then empires. They learn to write, to forge metal, to split the atom. Your world is buried, forgotten, preserved only as a layer of chipped stone and fossilized bone deep within the earth. Then, one day in the 19th century, in a German valley called Neander, quarry workers blasting for limestone stumble upon a strange, thick-boned skull. The discovery of these fossils will ignite the new science of paleoanthropology and forever change the story we tell about ourselves. At first, the scientific establishment is baffled. The quirky initial assessment of this first fossil was that it couldn't possibly be an ancient human relative. It must be the malformed skeleton of a modern human, perhaps a lost Mongolian Cossack soldier from a recent war who had suffered from rickets. The world, it seemed, was not yet ready for you. For over a century, your people are cast as the villains of the human story. Brutish, stooped, dim-witted failures who were rightly swept aside by the glorious march of progress. But slowly, painstakingly, the truth begins to emerge. More fossils are found. The evidence of your tool-making, your burials, your care for the sick, and your art begins to build an undeniable case for your humanity. The monster is slowly transformed back into a man. The final, most astonishing revelation, however, would have to wait for the 21st century and the greatest scientific achievement of our time. The Human Genome Project, which mapped our own DNA, perfected the technologies that would allow scientists to do the impossible: to extract and sequence the entire genome from fragments of your ancient bones. For the first time, we could read the Book of You. And in that book was a secret that no one expected. When we compared your genome to ours, we found that you had not vanished at all. You had merged with us. That child of two worlds, the one you held as your own fire faded to black, was not an anomaly. They were the future. Your DNA is present in almost everyone on Earth. If your ancestors came from anywhere outside of Africa, you, the person listening to this right now, are carrying an echo of the Neanderthals within your own blood. That 1 to 4% is a direct, unbroken genetic link to this lost world. This is not just a statistical curiosity. It has real effects. Some of the genes we inherited from you are related to our immune system, providing a vital toolkit of defenses against pathogens in Europe and Asia. Other genes affect our hair and skin, influencing the production of keratin. And this raises a fascinating debate. Was this genetic inheritance a crucial toolkit that helped modern humans adapt to new environments? Or were many of these genes simply neutral passengers, with a few having slightly negative side effects, like a predisposition to certain allergies in our modern world? Either way, your story is not over. It is being written in our successes, our failures, our very biology. You are the ghost in our machine. So let your mind drift back, one last time, to that cold, grey morning in the cave. Feel the weight of the furs, the bite of the air, the comforting warmth of the slowly growing fire. See the faces of your family, their features shaped by the ice and the wind. Remember the heft of the spear in your hands, the thrill of the hunt, the taste of meat roasted on an open flame. Remember the quiet sorrow of the grave, the spark of wonder at a splash of red pigment on a grey stone, the pride of an eagle's talon resting on your chest. These experiences, this life that you have just walked through, feels alien and distant, separated from us by an impassable gulf of 40,000 years. And yet, are they truly so different? The love for a child, the respect for an elder, the grief for the dead, the need for a fire in the darkness, these are not Neanderthal feelings. They are human feelings. The deep, fundamental currents of our own lives were present in yours. The final scholarly debate has always been, in some form, were they truly like us? But the more we learn, the more the question seems to miss the point. The science has given us a new, more profound answer. They are us. That small percentage of your DNA that you, the listener, carry is not an abstract number. It is a living inheritance. It is the echo of the woman who chewed hides to make her child's first shoes. It is the echo of the hunter whose bones ached from a lifetime of battle. It is the echo of the old man who held the knowledge of his people in his mind. It is the echo of the child who looked at a colored rock and saw not just a stone, but a possibility. their resilience, their strength, their quiet creativity. All of it is a part of our shared human story. They were not a failure. They were not a clumsy, dead-end branch on the tree of life. They were, by any measure, one of the most successful and long-lived human species that has ever existed, thriving in the brutal world of the Ice Age for over 300,000 years, a span of time that makes our own species' reign look fleeting and fragile. Their world is gone, buried under the soil and the relentless march of time. The great mammoths are gone, the glaciers have retreated, and the caves are now silent and empty. But they are not truly lost, because a fragment of them survived in the most intimate way possible, within the children of their rivals. They live on in us. And now, thanks to the patient work of science that allows us to piece together their story, they can live on in our memory too. The sleeping land has finally given up its ghosts, and we have discovered that they have our face. And so, our long day in that lost and frozen world comes to a close. The Ice Age sun has set, and the fire in the cave has dwindled to its last glowing embers, a mirror of the long, slow twilight that eventually claimed our ancient cousins. Let the images of that time now begin to soften and fade. The vast, empty tundra can dissolve into the quiet darkness of your own room. The ghost of the mammoth and the hunter and the child can recede into the gentle mists of sleep, their story told, their memory honored. Their world was one of struggle, a life lived on the very edge of existence, but their legacy is one of profound and enduring resilience. They are a quiet reminder that our own human story is so much older, so much deeper, and so much stranger than we often imagine. As you lie here now, in the warmth and safety of a world they could never have dreamed of, let their ancient strength be a comfort. Let the deep, primal rhythm of their life, tied to the turning of the seasons and the beating of a heart, guide you now into your own peaceful rest. The long, cold night of the Pleistocene is over. All that is left is to sleep,